So, I realized that I maybe left something out which you would care about, and that is about adding this thing to your portfolio. And this can also be about updating anything into your portfolio. It could be about putting homework in there or one of the files that we've worked on during class. So let me just come back here for a second and show you something. So here we are. Now this is the one that I just published, this one called Exercise that's out here. And so right now it's just fitting into the website. And here's my portfolio, which is, if you look at this, it's just literally right upstairs from that. Now, some of what I'm going to show you may look a little awkward, but to understand it, just imagine it all comes down to making a link from the portfolio to the work we just did, which will be laid out exactly as this one is, with the portfolio directly upstairs from the files we needed to link it to. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, well, I guess I've already disconnected. It's just showing me this still. I'm going to drop back into standard Dreamweaver mode, and I'm going to go ahead and close this up. Because the weird thing that I'm going to do, and I'll tell you what I'm going to close Dreamweaver to. The weird thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, which is, let me bring this in where you can see it. This is the folder with all the files in it that I just produced. So this would be like looking on your desktop at the end of the final exam and seeing all the files that you built just sitting out there. Now they will look a little different because I've got different icons for them here and stuff like that. But essentially, I'm going to do two things. The folder that I published to on my web server, I called Exercise, right? So first thing I'm going to do is just change the name of this to Exercise. Probably would have been smarter and simpler for me to just name the one I put on the web Lessons, and I wouldn't have to make this change, right? But, I may be your teacher, but it doesn't mean I do everything right. So now this is exactly like the name of the folder on the web, and basically the files inside it are the same files. And then I'm going to do this weird thing. I've done this in class a couple of times, and I still think people are, by and large, a little puzzled by it. But some of you are starting to really get it, and those of you who are getting it are basically slapping your foreheads and going, oh, this is simpler than I thought it was. So I'm going to make a new folder, right? New folder. I'll call it Portfolio. But frankly, it could be called anything, right? It could be called Moo again, like the editable region, and that would be fine. It's basically just a place where I'm going to stick this folder, Exercise. Now when I open it up, look. Here we are in this folder called Portfolio, and inside of it is a folder called Exercise. Now, I'm going to close up that window. I'm going to go ahead and start Dreamweaver one more time. And you're going to see something when Dreamweaver opens up, which we've seen in class often enough, goodness knows. Dreamweaver comes up and goes, hey, that folder I was using a second ago, I don't see it. Now, you can either go cancel and kind of be nowhere in particular, or you can go to Manage Sites. And I'm just going to go to the one called Reminders, which is the name of the site that I'm working on right at the moment, that this is. And I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to edit it a little bit. I'm going to say, so here's the pencil, right? I'm going to say that the folder where this is located is actually the one called, let's see, where is it? Portfolio. Select. Okay. Now, I don't need to change the publishing information. This is still just fine. It's already there, right? Because I'm just editing the site I was already using. Save. OK. Done. And here we are. Now look, this looks a lot more empty than it did a minute ago. That's basically because everything we were working on a minute ago is packed away in this little folder called exercise, right? Now, I connect to the web, connect to the server. I get into the MIC104D folder over here. And don't forget, this is my portfolio. Now, to make this thing over here be the same structure as this thing over here, I just need to drag my portfolio and drop it on the highest folder over here to the right. I'll say yes to dependent files, but it really makes so little difference, because here I'm not publishing, I'm just doing a quick edit. So here's my portfolio. I'll go ahead and double click it to get into editing mode, right? And obviously I've got a lot less going on in mine than you should have in yours by this point, and by the end of the quarter especially. And to add this as the final entry in this whole thing, I'm just going to say, well, you know, I'll tell you what, I won't say final exam, but that's what you would be typing here, basically. I'll just say exercise. I'll select the word that I just typed. Now here's the folder where that file needs to be linked to, where that little text needs to be linked to, and this is the file that I want to link to. So with exercise selected, here's the point to file device, coming right over to index, and I release. All right, now this is linked. It just needs to be saved. We need to go back into FTP mode. And again, remember, this is something I sort of blab on about, but it is challenging enough to figure this out without having to look at like 25 separate files and folders. So simplify where you can. This is my portfolio. It needs to go back to MIC104D, so back it goes. And I'm actually going to say no to dependent files because, for example, those are these little image files that make the portfolio look the way it does, and they're already there. They don't need to go again. And this guy, you could say, oh, now I need to drag him over, but you don't. He's already there. And he's already there in exactly the same position with regard to index that he is over here. So that means that this link structure will succeed. It simply needs to duplicate in both places the path that must be followed. All right? Now, I don't expect that that somehow magically makes everything okay, but it's time to start letting this image gel in your mind, because it's coming up on Saturday. All right, so I'm going to disconnect from the server, and I will do one last video in a minute on mistakes people make.